What's good? What's good? What's good? What's good? We back. We back. We back. Let's go. We're gonna go into this Egypt shit again, man. It's like I gotta do it again because it wasn't done thoroughly enough before, but you know we're gonna make progress. All right, get this a break. All right, we're going back in on this Egypt thing, man. Hold on, let me share this out, dog. You know, we still dealing with who are we conversation. You know what I'm saying? We still dealing with that, man. And I'm tagging everybody up again. I'm gonna keep tagging y'all niggas till y'all start showing up again, nigga. Fuck it. Tag y'all niggas up right now. Where y'all niggas at? I know y'all over there watching Smoke Signal. Smoke Signal channel stale though. Let's keep it real. It's the same shit every day. I mean, we gotta bring it back to some original content. You know what I mean? New perspective, shit like that. That's what we about to do. All right. How we wanna break this down? Pyramids. Okay, we know the pyramids. Now, the pyramids are very unique because when we talk about the pyramids, we're seeing really the extent of a culture. We're seeing the extent of a culture when you talk about what they built. And I think what they built tells you a lot about who they are, right? Just like when we think about Alexandria, that's a unique city because it's Greek culture. It's telling us who these people are. The pyramids are very unique with the pointed top. Very unique. And we only find the pyramids in what we know now is two distinct places that are neighbors. And that's in the Sudan and that's in Egypt. Nowhere else you see pointed tipped pyramids, at least from that time, from that culture. If someone's seen it later and did it, that's different. Because I can imagine maybe there's a story of West Africans reaching Egypt at a certain point in time and going back to West Africa and, you know, being impressed by the culture and mimicking the culture. I could definitely see that being plausible. All right, here we go. We're going to go into pyramids. The origin of the pyramid. Let's start here. This is a great place to start. Let's get into the origins. Since this is Assassin's Creed Origins, we're going to get into the origins. Hit the like button, man. This is going to be a great stream. It's going to be a great stream. So let's get into character. I need to be an Egyptian. I need to feel like an Egyptian. We could roll with Reda, the nomadic merchant. He's Egyptian. Look at Reda. So I need Truce, you gotta witness this. I need you to tell me something about what your eyes see when we talk about these people. At least from these depictions. Let me call this nigga. All right, that nigga working. All right, we're gonna go in with Reda, the merchant, and we're gonna see what we can find, man. Cause we gotta get to the bottom of this. We gotta get to the bottom of this. All right, look, we're Reda right now. Why are they calling Reda an Egyptian? Why are they calling Reda an Egyptian? What's good, OTK? What's good, OTK? Come on, man. Where you at, man? I hit you up earlier. It's all good, though. We here right now. Let's go. Let's go. All right, so it says the origin of the pyramid. So right now we're in Giza. And Giza Interestingly, it kind of sounds like Gaza. It does sound a little bit like Gaza, so I'm noticing that similarity. So it says learn about early funerary monuments. And oh, another thing I'm gonna do. They got people like orating the Egyptian language in the game. I want to hear the language. I want to hear what it sounds like, because that's also going to tell you a little bit something about who these people are. Obviously, this is the game's rendition. So it says learn about early funerary monuments of ancient Egypt and their evolution into the pyramidal structure we know so well today. So it
Welcome
starts
to
off.
the origin of the pyramid.
It starts off with the funerary monuments, burying your dead.
During the pre-dynastic period, the development of funerary practices was different, depending on whether one was located in Lower Egypt or Upper Egypt.
Okay.
Well before the pyramid, there was the burial pits.
Okay.
It is on the site of Merimde Beni Salame in Lower Egypt that we find the oldest funerary site, dating back to 5000 BCE.
5,000.
Study of the tombs revealed that the bodies of the deceased were deposited in a shallow grave, in a fetal position. Though a few objects were recovered from these graves, they offered no insight as to the social class of those interred within.
That's still good information right there. So Lower Egypt is Upper Egypt. It's what this is saying. And I think I understand Upper Egypt is actually in the south. What we know as the south. Upper Egypt is in what we know as the south. Let me verify that. Upper Egypt. What is Upper Egypt? It's called Sahid in Arabic. Sahid or Said. Said. From a word meaning uplands. The upper lands in ancient times. It was known as Tashimau, something like that. Tashimau, meaning land of reeds or sedge land. And in biblical Hebrew, it was known as Pathros. That's Hebrew? That sounds like a Greek word. Pathros? Okay. Tashimau. So the upper lands, the reed lands. So it started in Upper Egypt. I'm still trying to get a clear. Wait, hold on. No, I might have it backwards, man. Let me see. Let me get this correctly. It's saying Upper Egypt is the southern portion of Egypt, right? And is composed of the Nile River Valley south of the Delta. So now, when I talk to Truist about this, we need to talk about the fact that they're saying the culture started in the south. And, okay, let me go to this one.
In Upper Egypt, pre-dynastic practices are easier to study, but reveal more complex funerary rites. They are divided into two cultural phases, Badarian and Nagada. The Badarian phase ranged from 4400 BCE to 3800 BCE.
Okay.
Small necropolises were discovered on the outskirts of villages, revealing the emergence of a funerary cult.
Okay.
The bodies of the deceased were lowered into an oval grave and covered with goat or gazelle skins.
All right.
Items needed in everyday life were added alongside the body.
Okay, so they're saying what they're buried with is going to tell you their social class, because the items needed in everyday life were added alongside the body. And okay, this right here, don't get this confused. This is a reconstruction. This isn't a real picture. At the top it says this is a reconstruction in the British Museum of what, you know, a man's body would have been like. So they break it down to two phases, Badarian and Nagada. It told us what Badarian is, but it didn't tell us what Nagada is. So I don't know why they didn't do that. They should have put what the Nagata is in there. Look, we're Reda right now. They saying Reda is not a real person, but Egyptian merchant.
During the three Nagata periods ranging from 4000 BCE to 3510 BCE,
Oh, here we go,
funerary
Nagata.
practices evolved in complexity. The shape of tombs changed from oval to rectangular,
Okay.
mimicking the homes of the living. The size of the burials increased and funerary items became more stylized and numerous. Tombs gained complexity with masonry, wooden veneers, or raw bricks added to strengthen the structures. In time, socially stratified necropolises emerged. For example, in Hierakonpolis, the elite and commoners had separate necropolises.
So here we go. Nagata. So from 4,000 to 3,500. So it seems like it overlaps with the Badarian culture, at least briefly. So the shape changes from oval to rectangular, mimicking the homes of the living. So we're getting the foundation of what is going to become the pyramid. So we're working our way from the bottom up.
The term mastaba, meaning massive bench in dialectal Arabic, refers to a form of funerary architecture that was present in Egypt from the Archaic period to the Middle Kingdom.
Okay.
An evolution of the burial pit, mastabas were generally composed of two parts. A structure was built above the ground in the form of a massive rectangle with stepped walls, and a subterranean burial chamber was located underneath. Smaller mastabas often surrounded the much larger tomb of the king. These generally held the remains of the king's relatives and courtiers.
Okay. Here we go. So they're starting to put them deep under a structure. And it's called a mastaba in Arabic. And probably Egyptian Arabic. They call it mastaba. So it refers to a form of funerary architecture that was present in Egypt from the Archaic period to the Middle Kingdom. So let's get an idea of Archaic period to Middle Kingdom time frame. Let's see when that is exactly. So the Middle Kingdom lasted from about 2040 BC to 1782 BC. So the AI overview is saying the ancient Egyptian timeline from the Archaic period to the Middle Kingdom spans roughly 1,500 years. From approximately 3150 BC to 1650 BC. Okay, so it's around this time frame that they're developing what it looks like to be a real foundation of the pyramid. All right. So now we're actually going inside one. Wow, check this out. Look, so this is the overhead of what it would have looked like. Oh, well, some of it's buried under sand, obviously, but we can imagine kind of what it looked like. This game is fire, y'all. This game is absolutely fire.
The arrangement of the substructure of the mastaba evolved during the course of the Old Kingdom. From the 5th dynasty onwards, mastabas often featured multi-roomed substructures, with sometimes up to 30 rooms. Also, the quantity and quality of decorated surfaces increased noticeably, as well as the number of statues found within.
The arrangement of the substructure of the mastaba evolved during the course of the Old Kingdom. So they're talking about the base area beneath the surface. From the 5th dynasty onwards, mastabas often featured multi-room substructures with sometimes up to 30 rooms. Now, this culture of going underground is a Near Eastern thing. Maybe I'm ignorant, maybe there's other cultures that we see that with, but it is, they talking about, you know, what they doing in the Near East, in Palestine right now, going underground. They saying Hamas going underground. So I'm seeing a culture within that right there.
The 6th dynasty would see art used to its utmost. The entire surface of a mastaba would be covered in scenes of daily life, illustrating the prosperity of those lucky enough to comfortably spend eternity near the pyramid of a pharaoh. The best example of this type of mastaba is the tomb of Mereruka in Saqqara.
So they're saying the decorative aspect that people love so much today about Egypt, it comes in the 6th century. I think without this decorative aspect, Egypt isn't Egypt. I know they'll still have the pyramids and the Sphinx. We gotta also see when those were built as well, like the actual pointed tip pyramid. But the 6th dynasty of Egypt, established in 2345 BC, disestablished in 2181 BCE or BC. So this falls during the Old Kingdom. It's the last dynasty of the Old Kingdom. So it's really the old. Okay, so the Old Kingdom gets us to the decorative element, at least according to what the game says. All right, so that was interesting right there. Did I do it? Did I finish it? Hold up. Right now. That may have been the end of the origin part. Okay, so it's not taking us too deep into pyramids yet. That was just the background on how they got the pyramid started. So it started off little small funerary tombs, little burial sites. Damn, what did they say after that? They started talking about the mastaba, which is an Arabic word. Then they started, the mastaba, they started building the substructures, and sometimes it would have up to 30 rooms. And originally, they just looked like this, simple little, like, flat, rectangular structures. But I do see that there is a convergence. I don't know if they've verified that convergence. I could see where it developed into a pyramid because the sides are convergent to a point, even though they're flat. All right, let's go to the next chapter. The next chapter is the Step Pyramid Complex of Djoser. Damn, this is really taking us through the whole thing. So we're going to get Djoser, and then we're going to go inside Djoser's pyramid. Pause. There we go. So here we are. We're looking at Djoser's Step Pyramid. This is insane. Even in the game, that looked crazy. So just to pause right here. Now, when we have these conversations, about who the Egyptians were, you really got to break it down, because when people talk about Egypt, they're really referring to the things that they built, right? They don't really refer to like great stories coming out of Egypt so much. Like that's not really what it's known for. Not saying it doesn't have stories about Newton Geb or whatever the hell else, right? But essentially what people are talking about is the structures. But what we're seeing here is that there were phases of, they're breaking it down: old kingdom, new kingdom, archaic period, this period, and showing us that it wasn't like this one thing that just happened. It was different. They're breaking it down to different groups almost within Egypt, different time frames within Egypt that contributed something new that later developed into the pyramid. You start off with a little tomb, it turns into a mastaba. Now we're going into a step pyramid.
Welcome to the Step Pyramid Complex of Djoser. The Step Pyramid is at the center of an enclosed complex comprised of temples, models of palaces, and artificial constructions, all built for the afterlife of Pharaoh Djoser. The funeral complex itself covers 15 hectares and is located on the highest point of the Saqqara Plateau. It's clear from the elaborate detail and scale of the complex that this was a technological marvel of its time. The only fragment of information regarding the design plans of the complex was discovered on a section of stone containing an architectural sketch of a vault.
Okay, I'm gonna say this. What I see architecturally is not Middle Eastern. I see aspects now that get associated with the Middle East. But when I look at how they actually built their stuff, look, the pointed tip, these down here are flat. The Middle Eastern culture is much more about curvature and these slants and these nice, like, just in general, nice curvature in the way they write and the stuff that they build. So I'm seeing a difference in that. Small difference, but I still notice it.
The Step Pyramid is the first monument built of stone. Standing at 60 meters high, it was the tallest of its time. Built 4,700 years ago, it was originally intended as a mastaba, which was a flat-roofed rectangular tomb. Its famous architect, Imhotep, may have felt this was too humble for the great Pharaoh Djoser and began to add the steps.
Wow, okay, so we're gonna talk about Imhotep. Let's see Imhotep. They said he's an Egyptian polymath, which means he has many different talents, very well-versed individual. Imhotep, I'm looking at his page now. We got statues of him. The one who comes in peace. So his name is Imhotep, the one who comes in peace. Imhotep was an Egyptian chancellor to the king Djoser, possible architect of Djoser's step pyramid, and high priest of the sun god Ra at Heliopolis. Very little is known of Imhotep as a historical figure, but in the 3,000 years following his death, he was gradually glorified and deified. All right, so we're seeing a deification culture.
The Step Pyramid complex is enclosed within a 1,600-meter-long wall that is 10 meters high. This large wall was made out of white limestone and oriented along the north-south axis.
Okay, so it's enclosed by a 1,600-meter wall with 10-meter high um, in height, basically, made out of white limestone. Okay, so they used white limestone. So I'm just gonna get a look at white limestone, which is very nice. hmm Beautiful rock. So I'm wondering, where did the ancient Egyptians get their white limestone from? So it says the quarries at Tura, located across the Nile River from modern Cairo. So let me see. Bringing up a map. Cairo. So Cairo is toward the north, or what they would call Lower Egypt, where the river starts to split into its tributaries. All right, so I just had to get a visual on that.
While there are 14 doors, only its eastern door was intended to accommodate the living. The remaining false doors were built as portals for the king's Ka to pass through. Along with false doorways, the walls were designed with bastions and steeples resembling a defensive wall. The positioning of these design elements suggest that they were related to the Hebsed festival.
See, my whole thing is this though. Why does a person need a grand burial like that? And then when you burying them, you so worried about a tomb raider. It's like, yo, if you did it humbly, you wouldn't even have that problem. You could do it in a way where nobody even knows where he's built. And I understand the concern, but when you bring so much attention to where they're built with something like this, if they did in fact bury the dead in this, that's like, come on, bro. That's like not even smart. Now, if these were built as decoys with like a false body in there, then I can understand that. But nah, there's actually a bunch of loot up in these places. Crazy.
The only real entrance into the complex is at the end of a long, narrow passageway. This enclosure has a stone canopy carved to resemble wooden logs. At the end of the passage is a large opening. Meant to resemble a doorway, it has carved doors and hinges that are permanently open and immovable.
I mean, the beauty of what they did is they left so much behind for us to learn from.
The corridor is lined with 20 pairs of columns up to 6 meters high, built by stacking stone drums. The completed facade was made to resemble reed stock bundles. Traces of red paint were found on the columns, along with black paint on the support walls. This would have had the effect of blending the walls into the shadows to give the red columns the illusion of standing on their own.
So this is a stela representing interlocking doors from the late period.
Chambers are located on either side of the columns and are thought to be chapels representing the provinces of Upper and Lower Egypt. According to some Egyptologists, the arrangement of the rooms may be symbolic of jurisdiction and judgment.
This is a perfume vase depicting the country unification Sematawi, symbol with happy, reign of Tutankhamun. Egyptian Museum, Cairo, Egypt.
Guarded by a line of carved snakes, this tomb is located at the southern end of the courtyard. The burial chamber is beneath it, down a 30-meter deep shaft. The low-ceilinged chamber resembles a mastaba and is relatively intact compared to the later burial chamber. The tomb is made of pink granite, though there is evidence it was once polished limestone. Too small for a body, it is possible that the tomb was intended for the king's ka, or to hold the canopic jars containing the king's organs. Later traditions in burials would have the canopic jars in the same chamber as the body.
This tomb is located at the southern end of the courtyard. Resembles a mastaba, is relatively intact compared to the later burial. Okay. Maybe the tomb was used for the king's ka, which maybe is saying the spirit or something like that. What they believed. Hold on, what is a ka? Ka in Egypt culture. So the ka was the vital essence of life force that animated a person while they were alive and continue to exist after death. So it's essentially the spirit. What we know is the spirit.
A polished limestone staircase leads west from the tomb to underground apartments. Some of these rooms were intended to accommodate the king and his family in the afterlife. Many large jars of pottery were found, including some that still had deposits of beer, milk, and oil inside them. The false doorways are decorated with reliefs of the king taking part in rituals. In these reliefs, he is seen carrying agricultural tools, running, and performing a ritual for the reanimation of the deceased.
So this is wall tiles from the funerary apartments of King Djoser. So let me change this title real quick, because we're going over the origins of the pyramids, and I did want to say that the snakes that were lining the top part, that culture, that is kind of some what you see with like the Persians would do something similar and put like what's it called? Damn, I forget the name of that winged beast, you know? Damn, what the hell is that 5-legged beast called in the Persian culture? I should know this. Persian 5-legged beast. Come on. The Lamassu, sorry, Assyria. The Lamassu. So the Lamassu was like a 5-legged winged / half-man beast. Almost like what we see with like Pegasus. Let me bring up a picture of the Lamassu. So it's a man's head, and he has a crown, long beard, he's winged, and some of them he has 5 legs. Now I'm seeing other ones where he has 4. Well, actually, no, this one he has 5 as well. So that's an old Assyrian god or goddess. They said it was initially depicted as a goddess in Sumerian times. When it was called Lama, it was later depicted from Assyrian times as a hybrid of a human bird and either a bull or a lion, specifically having a human head. Now, that's similar to the Sphinx. So you know what? I'm seeing a shared culture. Somebody seeing what somebody else is doing or something. Let me see what's the time frame on the Lamassu. So this is actually later. The Lamassu is later. What the Egyptians are doing, well, actually I got to see when the Sphinx came about, but they be saying, let's see how old the Sphinx is. How old is the Sphinx? All right, let's see. The Sphinx is conventionally dated to approximately 4,500 years old, from the reign of the pharaoh Khafre around 2500 BC. So the Assyrians come later with the Lamassu. Let me see. The Assyrians. Boom. So the Assyrians, they started in the 21st century BC. Still not quite as old though as when the Sphinx was said to have been built. I'm trying to get a good idea with a map. Yeah, the Assyrians are, they're not even the Persian, what we know as the Persians. The Assyrians are the Mesopotamians. Or some people say where Babylon is, and etc. All right, here we go. Let's keep going.
Guarded by a line of carved snakes, this tomb is located at the southern.
Here we go.
The architect Imhotep chose stone as a building material in order for the complex to last. Following the completion of the initial mastaba, Imhotep devised a burial of more ambitious dimensions. He set about stacking mastabas on top of each other. Evidence shows that the pyramid was enlarged twice by additional cuts into the steps, eventually reaching 62 meters in height and 121 meters by 109 meters at its base.
Doesn't that kind of give you a clue on how the pyramids could have been built? Like, if they're stacking mastabas on top of each other, like now you just got to fill in the area from the foundation's perimeter up to the top, the pointed top. So we might have to get into some theories about how they were built, because I don't understand why they can't figure it out. Got so much evidence left behind.
A staircase allowing the pharaoh to enter the divine world was represented by a tiered pyramid, oblong in shape, completely enveloping the original mastaba. The pyramid itself is a solid structure. All of the chambers and tunnels are beneath the structure.
So how were the average man buried? Because I'm seeing a lot of like, and you know, I know the people, they viewed their kings as gods, but it's like, damn, bro. Like, they doing a lot for... Now, I don't believe in that, man. I think everybody equal. That's what I see in life.
Pharaoh Djoser the Sacred was the founder of the Third Dynasty. He ruled for 19 years. During his reign, he was known as Horus Negereket, divine of the body. He was given the name Djoser several centuries after his death as a sign of respect, and he is regarded as one of the greatest pharaohs of Egypt.
Okay.
An apocrypha was drafted in his name during the Ptolemaic period, 2,500 years after his death.
So the Third Dynasty, let's get a date. The Third Dynasty is the first dynasty of the Old Kingdom. So established in 2686 BC, and it ends in 2613 BC. 73 years, okay. Okay.
Djoser was associated with the sky god Horus in his human form. A plinth near the step pyramid is inscribed with his name and associated with Horus. He was the first to reside in Memphis, making it the central hub of government for the region.
All right, let's see, Memphis.
Djoser was known to have built many temples and monuments before the complex at Saqqara. The funerary complex was the first of its kind, and
Memphis,
would mark
Egypt.
Djoser's greatest architectural achievement.
So that's a strong area right there, because it's right before the river branches off into its tributaries.
funerary complex was built to resemble Djoser's palace, with the stone carved to imitate mud brick, trees, and reeds. Creating these details and softer textures in hard stone would have been a time-consuming, labor-intensive task. Much of the complex is designed to accommodate the Hebsed festival, allowing the king the ability to affirm his rule even in the afterlife.
All right, y'all. So this has been good. I'm not gonna go above and beyond of what I'm able to give right now. Just been how long have we been on here? Like an hour? 40 minutes. 40 minutes. So let me see this one.
In the corner is a temple referred to as T. This temple is among the most mysterious structures in the complex. Its outer facade is plain, while inside it is decorated with intricate jed pillars and carvings. It's possible that this place was intended to be where the Ka of the king materialized, symbolically visiting the platform of the Hebsed courtyard from the afterlife.
Alright, your boy's about to switch over. We about to get some WWE in, y'all.